quite excited actually to spend the next 20 minutes sharing some ideas I have, talking a bit about some of the key trends in our industry, and sharing some insights around the American Tower strategy for Africa. But most important, if I can leave you with only one message, and that is, many of these conferences, I feel we get together to figure out how we can grab a little bit more of that pie. And instead of today and tomorrow spending time thinking about how you can get a little bit more of that pie, that value chain, I want us to think about how we work together to grow the pie. And in Africa, there is huge opportunity and really only some challenges that will require all of us to work together to grow the pie. And if we grow the pie, I promise you, we'll all get a little bit extra out of this, out of the value chain, and we'll be successful. So, without further ado, let me talk to you a bit about the key trends I wanted to cover, and obviously data growth is a big trend we're all aware of, and I'm not going to repeat the data you've seen from some of the customers, some of you who have recently released results and shown really impressive data growth. I want to talk about the bigger picture and almost paint you a picture of what the opportunity size is in Africa for the next few years. And I found useful a report that was put together by Rewheel and Taylor back in February 2019, which does feel like a lifetime away, but nonetheless still relevant. And they did some analysis on the number of eNode Bs. Now, I'll be using sort of the terminology of a base station, a 4G base station going forward, but they spoke to eNode Bs, and they said in Finland at that time there were 3.7 eNode Bs for every 1,000 people. And just to flip that around, that's about 270 people serviced by one base station, and it's quite remarkable, those ratios. So I'll talk to what we have today in Africa, but Europe was probably on average at around 900 people per base station, and so to paint the picture of what could be possible, if we think about where we are today, in one of the biggest markets in Africa, we have Nigeria with around 31,000 towers, and using a rough ratio between towers and base stations, and the current population in Nigeria, you get to around 4,500 people per base station. So just in context, Europe today 900, Nigeria 4,500, and obviously stepping back and putting aside all the moving parts, if we had to just say, I can at least see a scenario where the data demand and data usage grows in Nigeria and in Africa to a point where it's similar to those demand factors in Europe. You would need another 84,000 towers, about another 84,000 towers in Nigeria, and that opportunity should get you excited. I mean, it has myself, it has American Tower very excited about the potential for Africa, and picking one or two other countries. If I spoke to Uganda using the same thought process, we'd need about another 21,000 towers to sort of support those demand factors, and even for South Africa, where we would say, the infrastructure, there's quite a bit of investment that's happened there. We would still need about 2,000 towers, and that's just to get us to the current levels that we saw from this report in Europe in 2019. And then, of course, you can overlay another big trend in Africa, and that is population growth. The Economist recently put out an article where they spoke to the fact that the population in Africa could double by 2050. And I think they mentioned numbers like 2.5 billion people, which, I find very hard to quantify. So the other data point they used that I quite liked is they said every 2 years, Africa adds another France. And so using the thought process we did just now on the sort of number of towers and base stations per population, so it sort of came to, an outcome where we would need another 9,000 towers in Africa just to stand still in the next 2 years. And that's a remarkable fact. You look at those two trends and you have to step back and think, back to the challenge around how do we grow the pie? How do we work together on really finding sufficient financing and capacity to fund that investment required, significant investment. And I'll get to that in a bit more detail just now, but one of the other trends I wanted to talk to is data as an essential service. And life has changed for many of us. I'm talking to you from my home, which is now my study and almost my bedroom with the amount of time I spend in it. But some experience of late, having my kids at home with me, and we have this concept in South Africa that some of you may be familiar with. It's called load shedding, and essentially the utility will switch off your power for certain hours in the day to sort of keep the system stable. And the one thing I've learned with my kids at home and myself working from home is that we can work around no power. We've managed to work around no power, even if at times it's meant some candles. But whatever you do, don't switch off our data power. And that's caused some real chaos in the house, whether it was kids unable to connect with their friends or play games, or myself just unable to connect for work. And it's just really, and that's really talking to you from someone who's in a pretty fortunate position. We have many people who need data as an essential public service, and we have many people who even today are not connected. And there's a huge opportunity to connect the unconnected. There's a huge opportunity to make sure that we put in place regulations and infrastructure that supports data as an essential service, which is what it has become for all of us who are using it for anything from our banking to our entertainment to connecting with friends and family, to watching our media and content, and so this is a very key trend. And then lastly, we need to talk about renewable energy. I think Africa has a huge opportunity to leapfrog many other countries that have invested in significant fossil fuel power sources. And for me, one of the defining trends or triggers around this trend has been really of late how we've seen the cost of producing solar power, the effective cost of producing solar power becoming less than the cost of power from the grid. And of course, setting aside the fact that storage is still a bit of a constraint, distributed storage and how we manage that in the cost equation. The trends are showing declining costs for green energy, renewable energy, and we could get to a scenario in the future where the cost of producing distributed energy from renewable sources is less than the cost of the distribution, maintaining the distribution grid, or in Africa's case, definitely the cost of building new distribution. And so I think we have a unique opportunity to think about how we build the models and build out the value chain for renewable energy. And telecoms is almost uniquely positioned for that as sort of one of the frontier investment activities in many of these markets, along with mining and then banking. But we have an opportunity to influence the way that the energy system gets developed in Africa. I think that's very exciting. So, those are the trends that I think are worth thinking about as I take you through our strategy. But maybe to introduce myself now, my name is Murray Busby. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for American Tower in Africa. American Tower is a global tower company with over 181,000 towers. We have 5,500 amazing people diverse people working across the globe to service our customers and make sure that we connect everyone. And I'm really excited about, what we've seen in Africa. American Tower, it's public news. We've had around 9.7% what we call organic growth, organic tenant billings growth. And for those of you not familiar with the term, it's a bit like same-store sales. So we measure the sort of on the infrastructure, so excluding new infrastructure, what are we seeing in terms of new business? And it talks to the growth in an area. And Africa within American Tower is growing well above many of our other markets across the world. So 9.7%, and in a COVID year, predicting for the full year to be around 9%. So I think those are really testament to the fact that what we've seen in terms of the trends is resulting in demand for our customers, and it's really how we can support to continue with this growth. The other thing we're seeing is obviously a lot of new site rollouts. Again, public information, we expect to do over 1,000 new towers this year in Africa. And then, of course, as I spoke to renewable energy, we're expecting to deploy over 40,000 solar panels in Africa in 2020. So a bit about American Tower. I think importantly, not just about what we're seeing in the rear view in terms of our results, but more importantly, what is our strategy? And we have a stand and deliver strategy, a global strategy that we've taken as the Africa leadership team and worked with our teams in each country to develop what we've now termed the Shine strategy for Africa. And I won't be taking you through, the strategies in detail, but I do want to cover a few of the key areas and talk to the trends, and then talk back to the bit that I said earlier on, in that, really it's about growing the pie rather than fighting for your bit of the pie. And so just going to our strategy, one of the center of our strategy, the focal point of our strategy is our people. And it's something that's not spoken about much, actually, in terms of people and talent, spoken about at conferences, but we would not be where we are as American Tower in Africa without the great talent that we've been able to secure. And it has been a tough journey that's required a focused strategy. Talent is scarce, and talent has choice, goes to the company of their choice. And as a new brand, when we started in Africa, American Tower, we needed to work hard to attract great talent from some of the more distinguished brands or relevant brands that have been present in Africa for much longer. But I'm proud to say, as a team, I think we've done a great job, and we've been able to not only attract great talent, but we've been able to develop that talent further. And we have specific programs in place where we do assignments, rotational assignments, where we obviously invest a lot through our fixed and structured development programs, but also the sort of more fluid on the job ones. We've managed to retain our great talent, which is key in this market. If you want to be successful in Africa, if any of you out there are at any level responsible for the P&L of your business and you want to be successful in Africa, you need to get great talent. And as a bit of an insight to share with you what is great talent for us, how do we look at talent? I think there's three key things in Africa. And the first is really, we look for people who are resilient, adaptable and resilient. This continent and this industry is and will continue to go through lots of change. And you need people who can sort of get on the bus and help you through that change. So we look for people who are resilient and adaptable. We obviously also look for people who can collaborate well. And it's a key skill. We're a matrix structured organization. We have lines going all the way out through Miami to Boston, where our head office is, and you need people who can work across functions to support your customers' needs and be successful. We operate in 7 markets, a very diverse group of people, and for that to be successful, you need people who can collaborate. And then the third one, very important to have critical thinkers. We talk about hiring good people and empowering them. And for that to be a successful strategy, you need people who can apply critical thinking to many complex challenges and come up with great solutions. And so, we put people and talent at the center of our strategy, and we think that's not only positioned us well historically, but will position us very well going forward for all the challenges and trends that I've mapped out for you. I think for us, when I talk about, not only grabbing your piece of the pie, but making the pie bigger, I think for us as an industry, as a group, we really need to work on how we attract more talent to Africa. How we develop our talent in Africa and how we retain our talent in Africa. If we want to be able to ride this wave, this huge trend that's coming, that will need great talent for us to be successful, to solve some of the unique challenges we have. Of course, you can't talk about a strategy without the most important thing, and that is your customers. And our customers are our mobile operators currently, and potentially some of the fixed line operators. When I talk about how we grow the pie, one of the big challenges in Africa is that there's this huge opportunity, there's this huge demand, but there is a cost constraint. Many of those operating in Africa will realize we don't have the ARPUs, we don't have the margins to support the required investment into the continent. And so, one of our biggest challenges is to be flexible and to think about how we can be flexible to work on solutions, to partner with our customers to get them to be able to scale. And that has really been about how we work through the economics of more volume and lower unit costs per volume. And so that's been a key challenge for us in terms of our strategy, being flexible and focusing on our customers' needs. And one of those is, no doubt, lower cost. The other one is obviously time to market. And this is a very specific thing for Africa, and that creates all sorts of challenges. The supply chain, logistics supply chain for Africa is a very long and costly one. Most of what we spend in this industry is imported. Very little of what we spend in this industry, including ourselves, and we're deploying as a global company. We're deploying $1 billion of capex in 2020, but most of what we spend is manufactured somewhere else. And I think when we talk about how do we grow the pie in Africa, I'm challenging all of you, irrespective of which business you're in, supplier, customer, government, stakeholder. I'm challenging you to think about how we work together to bring more manufacturing to Africa. If you're a supplier of ours or want to be a supplier of ours, and you've got a solution to set up facilities in Africa, preferably in one of the countries where we operate, but in Africa, come talk to me. I'm very open to you. If we can get manufacturing assembly set up in Africa, and once you put out a factory, you create jobs. And those jobs result in more disposable income, and that disposable income, no doubtedly, will land up a fair percentage of it with the mobile operators, or on some database service, because we know the demand is there. And by doing all of this, we would make the pie bigger. We would create more disposable income, which would trickle its way through this telecoms value chain, and all of us would benefit. So I'm challenging you, think about how we set up more local production facilities, more assembly facilities. And going back to the point I was making around the strategy, it's for our customers and for us, the challenge has been how do we come up with solutions that lower the unit costs and shorten the time to market. And on lower the unit costs, of course, we've got both on the rural side and deep rural, but even on the dense urban, how do we find effective solutions? And a big part of that has been what we do in our operational efficiency strategy component, where we've really looked to drive down the cost of energy. It's been a big component of operating in Africa. I mean, we've, as I said, we're deploying 40,000 solar panels. Over the last 3 years, we've effectively had a reduction of over 50 million litres of diesel across our market, 50 million litres of diesel. And we've installed 8 megawatts of solar power. So, that's a big part of how we support our customers in bringing down the cost of power. But that's really the bit around our customers. I think the third element, if I call it, of our Shine strategy is really around innovation. And much like our Stand and Deliver, we've said, to stay relevant to our customers, but also to support our customers in terms of their strategies. We need to be innovative, and we need to think about where we can take our business in terms of innovation. And one of the very successful models we've implemented is in South Africa, where we've partnered with a company to deploy fiber. The company's called Frogfoot, and I'm very proud of the partnership. It's, as with any partnership, it's had its challenges, but they've been great partners. And we built out a fairly significant set of infrastructure around fiber to the home. And the key